Welcome to the Design Build Institute of America's Design Build Delivers podcast. I'm Kim Wright at DBIA's national headquarters. Today we're talking about what makes a truly successful design build project. Well, there's no place better to start than with the team that delivered this year's Design Build Project of the Year. California's new natural resources headquarters was not only a complex project, but it also provided unique challenges to the team and the charge to remain true to the agency's environmental mission and goals. We'll get this conversation going with Richard Standiford from the California Department of General Services, Turner Construction's Jim Hall, and Tammy with AC Martin. Before we get started, DBIA offers our special thanks to US CAT for partnering with us to bring you this year's episodes of Design Build Delivers. We're talking to DBIA's 2022 Design Build Project of the Year team. They're from the new Natural Resources Headquarters project in California. Welcome to you all and congratulations on truly an honor, really, really well deserved. This is a terrific project. I think let's start at the logical place. When you take on a project like this, that number one was so massive, and we'll get into that in detail, but also very unique in that everybody had bought into the design build concept. The idea of collaboration and transparency and working things out together is clear in every single thing you guys did from the beginning to the end. Did this feel like it was going to be a different kind of project from the get-go, or did that evolve? Richard, why don't you kick us off?
I think it started out as a pretty special project. I think the relationships were very strong. The culture was very unique. Everyone started out with a selfless culture, project first mentality, and it started out special from day one. But I have to say that it just continued to grow and evolve throughout the project, and even things like the COVID pandemic really just pushed us to the next level. And every adversity our team encountered just kind of brought us stronger and closer together.
And from my perspective, very early on, DGS and the head of the SPIF program, Mike Meredith, his mantra was that the DGS wanted to be the client of choice. And we hear not necessarily those words, but clients, certainly strive to be that, but then don't really act that way. And from the top down through the DGS organization, they truly believed that, they lived it, and that's how they conducted their business. And so it really made it almost natural for everyone else to fall in line with that. And the team came together very quickly. And at least from my perspective, I noticed that we were high performing almost immediately. We were all pulling the same end of the rope, working together. There was never any finger pointing. It was something needed to be done. There was never that's DGS's problem or that's the design build entity's problem. It's our problem. Let's all work together and accomplish the goal.
Tammy, I know from a design perspective, early on in design build's history, it would take a knot from designers because they felt like they were not really feeling a part of a team. And I think this group showed that absolutely positively in good design build does not have to happen.
I totally agree. I think when we started the process, even during the competition, our design team was just throwing out every kind of wild, crazy idea out there to see what would stick. A lot of it didn't stick. And we learned very quickly to work together with Turner, our general contractor, to find the best design and the best way to get it done together. One where the the budget actually could work, but yet something that would be really special for the state of California, and specifically the California Natural Resources Agency. This particular project, you know, it kind of begged for something different, like something unique that wasn't just a box. And thankfully, everyone bought into the concept, and everyone wanted to make something incredibly special and something incredibly new and outstanding for Sacramento, for DGS specifically.
And we're going to have to talk about design. This is where podcasts kind of fail us because we can't see the pictures, but we'll drive everybody to some of these elements because there are things that we have to definitely talk about in the design. But this was such a massive project. 22-story high-rise office tower, fitness center, food court, 2 other 1-story buildings, historic house renovation, a new daycare facility with playground. There were exterior applications. I mean, it really, and I'm sure I probably missed something, but it was massive in every possible way. I mean, can we talk big picture about the primary goals when you undertake something this large, Richard? What were the must-haves in a project this large?
I think what's very curious about this project is there were a lot of must-haves, right? One of the primary we have is sustainability at the state of California. Reuse water, natural daylighting, zero net energy, and sustainability was a huge goal for the project. That was a must-have, and it really spoke to the Natural Resources Agency's mission to protect and restore the valuable resources of California. And the Turner A.C. Martin team checked all the boxes for sustainability. Many other goals on the project. 25% small business was a requirement of the project, and the Turner A.C. Martin team crushed that goal. And numerous other goals for targeted workers. It was the state's first project labor agreement that we've used. The list of goals went on and on and on for a high-profile project. And I think when we started the project, if we had achieved most of our goals, we would have deemed it a success. But every goal the state set forward for the project was achieved beyond what we had anticipated.
I love the nexus here that we are talking about a natural resources agency building, and obviously that is reflected in everything that the team did with this building. I mean, that really did drive a lot of the choices that you made. You mentioned the efficiency. Not only did you set high goals, but you guys crushed it.
Yeah, I mean, Tammy and their team really wanted the building features to really reflect the natural resources of California. I mean, Tammy, you could maybe go through a few of the features of the building that really spoke to California.
Sure. What an opportunity to do a building for CNRA in California. So just the moves that informed the massing of a 22-story high-rise building, things like a gorge, a fissure, things of the earth, right? And creating a massive form, but something that has articulation in it. And then just driving a valley or a gorge right through the podium to create the main circulation space from one side of the entry to the other, and then to the plaza, things like that. And then we also, more practically speaking, found a source in Napa to produce rammed earth panels with granite particles from different parts of California to create the tonality and the striations within each panel. So each panel was actually hand pounded, handmade, and then brought to the site. And that was another example of how we worked together, like through Turner with a small business to do something incredibly massive and giving people in the state an opportunity to be a part of something big. I think another piece that was very specifically special to the design of this project was a monumental wood wall in the public lobby. From the beginning, I think we had the idea that we wanted to utilize reclaimed wood. What became interesting as the contractors looked into it was that we were able to work with a source that reclaimed wood from the Paradise Fire, not too far from Sacramento, quite frankly, and then use that repurpose wood and make pretty a fantastic wall that everyone can see when they come through the gorge. So those are just a few examples. Also, within our plaza spaces in the gardens on the full block of Sacramento, our contractors were able to find full size grown trees that are, not the easiest thing to find these days, but they were able to find them, purchase them in advance, and bring them onto site. So in day one, we didn't have these little spindly trees. Everything was ready to go.
I have to let you talk about the auditorium too, because it is spectacular to look at. And I don't know, rumor has it it's like one of the governor's now favorite public spaces. If that's true, I don't blame him at all.
Oh, that's what we hear as well, which is fantastic. Not a public space in this building was not without a metaphor to nature. So the ceiling was designed as a metaphor to the rings of trees. And that's why you see this banding that's parametric in nature, in geometry. And I think our designers really had fun with it, using design software like Rhino and Grasshopper and making it work. And then marry that with our technical specialists. Like, okay, how are you really going to get this done and built? And communicate it in a way to contractors that they can actually build this thing and assemble it. So we basically created patterns, 2D patterns, so the contractor can use the patterns as their shop drawings and literally cut from the patterns and then assemble them in sections hung off of the ceiling. So not only do they provide an interesting ceiling design, it also provides some acoustic value to allow sound to be defibrillate at the top. And so I think it just turned out really great. It was like the right combination of design, contracting, and will.
And Jim, I'm sure there were some tough decisions your team had with just that ceiling structure in particular. And there's probably times when you decided, should we just abandon this structure and go with something a little more conventional?
Well, the first time I saw the rendering of that room, we had just submitted our proposal, and I looked at it, I thought, in fact, I commented to somebody, that'll never get built. It'll never look like that. I just, from a complexity standpoint, I just didn't see it happening. And yeah, there was certainly times where we did discuss what we would do with that ceiling. Could we build it the way our design team envisioned it? Did we need to go to a different material, something that we could get fabricated off site? Someone that maybe specializes in something like that we may have to have some flexibility in what it ultimately looks like. Structurally, how do we support it? So those were all things that Tammy, you may not even have been involved in those conversations, as we had our doubts.
Oh, I heard about it, and I was made aware of a scheme to make a flat ceiling in that space. But thankfully, the younger designers on our team pushed for the innovation and found a way to make it, palatable.
Well, and I wonder if the big room plays a role in that. How do you bridge a gap, which is what you're describing as a traditional, we want it to look this way, the contractor, oh God, I don't think I can make it look that way. How do you bridge that gap in a project like this?
So we used the big room to actually mock up sections of that ceiling. We actually utilized a small business here in Sacramento to do it. They from just structurally, how do we support it, and supporting it from a deck that may deflect, and then how do you keep the shape of the ceiling while a deck is potentially deflecting? We went through all of that just to before we completely crumbled it up and threw it out and said we're doing something different. We went through a tremendous amount of engineering and studying and mock-ups to convince ourselves ultimately that it could be done. And I've yet to see a picture that really tells the story of what it looks like. You've got to see it in person. It is
The
absolutely
big
amazing.
room,
It's all broken. Every one of those baffles was fabricated in about 8-foot sections. There's a couple hundred of those sections, and not one of them is identical. Every single section had to be hand built, and different. And
the big room broke down the silos so that everyone had the same goal for the auditorium. If the builder decided to just go the easy way, or the architect decided to, jump up and down and scream that their design must go through, there was none of that went on. It broke down the silos, one goal, one team, one mission, and we're all in the big room making the decisions together.
I would add that from a practical point of view, in the big room environment, we had conversations early on with Turner's cost manager / design manager, and said, how are we going to get this done? Because obviously this is not an inexpensive endeavor. And Turner's design manager told me basically this, that if you look at the scope of this project, it's 880,000 square feet. And we're talking about an auditorium that's, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, roughly. We have a list of 40 enhancements that we can offer to the owner. We were able to pull a little here and there, and we found the budget to make it work. And that's a real case of working together and doing things together in a big room to realize something incredible.
And I can only imagine the team the first time it stood under that ceiling in its completed form. That and many other places. It's not to focus so much on the auditorium, but it really is. I think it is very illustrative of what you've got to do to sometimes really push the envelope on these kinds of projects.
In 2018, the Turner AC Martin team was awarded the project, and they presented a fly-through video, which was an architectural rendering of the project. And if you were to put that fly-through video up right now and show it to everyone and then walk through the building, it's identical. I mean, the visions of the project in 2018 held through all the way till we opened the building 7 weeks early in 2021.
Are you interested in sustainable design and construction practices but concerned about profitability? USCAD, a N0 company, helps forward-thinking ENR top-ranked AEC firms mitigate risk and drive profit through digitalization using Autodesk AEC technology. To learn more, contact uscad.com/DBIA for a free 30-minute consultation. That's uscad.com/DBIA. That in and of itself is impressive. And I think we've kind of glossed over. We've talked about the challenges that I think a lot of design build teams face, which is just the collaboration and the problem solving and the working through problems and the transparency, and not that that's any small feat. But you guys also, you had not only COVID, we've got all of the supply chain, the cost escalation, all the things that everybody does, but you also had wildfires, you had civil unrest at the Capitol nearby. Those are the kinds of risks that can be project derailing, if not ending. How do you get through those types of risks and your risk management? How did you make that happen?
We had a strong relationship right at the start of the project that we kind of alluded to at the beginning of this discussion here, and no one ever allowed an adverse situation to kind of draw back or kind of pull away or kind of start to defend your position. So when the first few adversities hit and we just drew stronger as a team, there was no adversity that could have been thrown at us that would have derailed us.
It was the communication, the big room, every one of us being in that room every single morning. Every morning started with a daily huddle. But very early on in the project was maybe 8-10 people. It grew to over 100, but every morning everyone gathered and it was an open conversation. When those issues were coming up, those were topics of conversations that were had amongst the entire team in the morning. And then it was, okay, well, who are the best parties on this team to grab a hold of this and crush it? And that was that was then the mission for the day. If it was a critical item, that group got together, figured out what the plan of attack, and moved forward. There was never a, we'll wait till tomorrow or we'll wait till next week. It was, this is a current issue. Let's not ignore it. Let's talk about it now and address it.
I mean, I think listeners can certainly relate to how rough it was to get people back to work in the COVID environment. And you guys had extraordinary efforts to make sure that your teams felt comfortable coming back in, and it reflected that, in a lot of the comments that you got in your polling that they did, and you didn't have a single case of COVID exposure on the job site, which is incredible. But I don't think most people have gone through deadly wildfires that are not only making the air impossible to breathe, but your employees are being impacted because their homes and families are being threatened. That's incredibly personal while you're trying to do a massive project.
Yeah, we actually had a superintendent on the Turner team who lost his home in one of the fires, and his recording of the fire as he was leaving his house, as his truck, actually part of his truck melted. That's how close he was on national news. And so yeah, so it's close, and it's not just the air quality, but it really did hit very close to home, as one of our team members lost everything.
In CAL FIRE, which is the lead agency in California that deals with the natural disasters of wildfires, their agency headquarters, their department headquarters was in this building. They reside on the 9th and 10th floor of this building. So the director of CAL FIRE is a gentleman who we know, and so as we were going through these wildfire seasons, we persevered, we pushed through, because the folks at CAL FIRE go to work, and they work long hours, and they work very tough jobs in wildfire seasons. And our Project Resolve was to continue to push forward and put in safety measures to continue to work forward through these wildfire seasons, which were unprecedented.
The same agency that was fighting the fires is also the ones doing our plan check. And I think the fact that we got our permits was a sheer miracle, because there were so many things pulling CAL FIRE left and right, emergencies up and down the state, lives at risk and things like that. Thankfully, we were able to work together with them and ultimately achieve our 4+ permits to being able to build the building that you see today.
Thank you, Tammy, for mentioning that, because I know, it's hard enough to get permitting, let alone when the fire agency's got maybe bigger fish to fry, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about, it's come up already in a number of the design elements, and I think we need to have a bigger conversation about how small businesses, Richard talked early on about what was required, not just expected, but required with the hiring standards. And I got to think, Jim, just like you saw the ceiling in the auditorium and said, oh, that's not going to happen. When you see 25% for small business hiring, you must have had a similar thought. Let's talk about the way that you guys succeeded and really did do such a terrific job in getting small businesses and disadvantaged businesses engaged in this project.
Yeah, the 25% was definitely a huge challenge. Really, given the size of the project, you break that into trade packages. Those trade packages are big, and when a small business, when we was anything, a company had to perform less than $35 million a year, it really limited the trade pool that we could use, and that accomplishing that goal didn't just happen. In our interview, we personally gave Richard Standiford the guarantee that we would meet that requirement, and on our part, that wasn't just words. That we truly meant that we would make that goal or that requirement. And so from day one, we strategized on how we would do it, and broke into trade packages, and sometimes trade packages were broken down even smaller in order to maximize the number subcontractors that would be able to bid on those packages. And then we were very active with the state in bringing trades or subcontractors who weren't a certified small business, getting them certified so that they could bid on the project and we could account for them. But it was a strategy from day one on how we would get there. And our controls manager for Turner really led that effort and just did a remarkable job to get there.
There's even some little success stories. There's a sandwich spot across the street from our office that, as COVID was going into effect and retailers were shutting down and people weren't going into the downtown area, there was a small sandwich spot that we had kind of grown to know the owner, and we had kind of grown to love their environment. And she was struggling because of the lack of workers in Sacramento. And so the team went to her and bought sandwiches for the trade workers, and we had her provide breakfast burritos for the craft. And that's a small business that is still up and running and thriving to this day, that may have gone out of business had we not chose to target value to keep her in business and feed our craft and feed the big room and feed us during the pandemic.
And support the local community right there within, a block away from the project.
Let's talk a little bit about the resiliency in this building and your energy standards. It really isn't LEED Platinum, net zero. It goes on and on. Tell me a little bit about where this building ended up in your goal to really make this a representative natural resources building, right? Who wants a natural resources building that's wasteful? That's not going to happen. So tell me how you got there.
Reclaimed water was a big strategy for the project. The state is, currently in a long 5-year drought and continuing to look at ways to conserve water. We achieved that goal by having 50% less water use than a traditional office building of similar size. And the EUI energy use index for the project is below 30, which is just fantastic for a project of this size. So all the sustainability and all the energy goals were meet and exceeded on this project. And you speak to resiliency. The building is very structurally sound and very, seismically qualified to, maintain, through, earthquakes and events, and even the air filtration system. We mentioned the wildfires earlier. The air filtration system is better in the Natural Resources Agency headquarters than your home environments. We've actually toted to our staff that in the event of a wildfire, you're probably going to have better filtered air in the building than you will at your house. So there's just a couple of resiliency and sustainability measures that we achieved on the project.
I've sat in on many awards jury meeting over the years, and we've seen the number of DBIA certified professionals grow and grow and grow. And but we've never seen anything like this. This was an impressive group of DBI certified professionals across the board. Design, builder, and owner. Did that help get through that learning curve that I think is so often on design build projects, with maybe particularly an owner that doesn't necessarily fully understand how to deliver design build?
Oh, absolutely. I think early on, the leadership at AC Martin and at Turner decided, because of our years of experience together and kind of foreseeing where the industry was going, that we really needed to embrace this design build and help each other to grow it and to learn it. So between Turner and AC Martin, each of us hosted seminars, one in Sacramento and one in AC Martin in LA, and we invited folks from NorCal, Southern Cal, and we all joined together and all learned the stuff together in these week-long tutorial sessions together. And then there was accountability as well, through our leadership. We'll just come by each one of our desks, like, did you take the exam yet? Did you fill out all the forms? Are you ready to go? And she was keeping count between here in Sacramento of how many Turner people, how many AC Martin people, and that helped us build a strategy toward pursuing monumental projects like the ones that the DGS had set forth. essentially.
And DGS had 5 professional staff who helped manage the project, including our program manager. All 5 were DBIA credentialed professionals. It helped we're all speaking the same playbook, we're all speaking the same vernacular, and we're all, proceeding with design, build, done right mentality.
And becoming an owner of choice is no small thing. I mean, I know Jim Turner, you guys are looking for owners that they're going to be your choice because they've proven themselves as well.
Well, certainly, I look at the high level of trust that exists amongst this team right here. In fact, we're doing another project together right across the street from the new Natural Resources headquarters building. That usually get to the end of a large project, really any project, and everyone is kind of done with each other, ready to move on to the next one. And this team never felt that way. We were really more excited to let's do this again. And the stars aligned, and we ended up, as a design build team again, Turner, AC Martin, and with DGS, and it's been a great relationship. Again, like I say, very high level of trust that, quite honestly, when the team that I'm on now, we do have some new players that are a little unsure of that. That's not common in the industry, and here we are, AC Martin, Turner, and DGS going, no, you just got to trust us. We've
been there,
and
been there, done that.
Yeah, that's a true testament to this team and what we were able to accomplish, and now where we're going.
I guess to wrap up, and when you think about this project going over time, I mean, where does this stack? I know you can't pick your favorite child; that never works. But where does this project rank in you all have long careers? Where does this rank in the projects that you've delivered up to this point?
Oh, this project will be the project by which I measure all other projects. That's kind of been my tagline I've been going to. This is the pinnacle of my career to date. And I won't say because of the project, it's because of the people. The project will, kind of fade in memory, and kind of, the successes will be forgotten, but the people will all remain friends and colleagues with Tammy, Jim, and others for the rest of my life.
I totally concur with that, Richard. Ditto.
Exactly what he said. The relationships that were formed in this project. It's a great looking building. I love to brag about it when friends and family are around, and that's the building. But we do all move on, and we're working on another great project now. And so that's, if I say what's my favorite project, I always say my favorite project is the one I'm currently working on. But this one will certainly always have a little special place in my heart and mind.
Well, thank you all for taking time to talk about this really terrific project. Congratulations again to a well-deserving Project of the Year team. And I guess we might see you in a few years when this next building ends, huh?
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Thanks again to Richard, Jim, and Tammy for joining us. We really do hope you'll take some time to look at the project photos and video to get the full feel for this terrific Project of the Year. You can find them at dbia.org/awards. We expect next year's Design Build Project Team Awards to open around February. So stay tuned to our website or sign up for our emails to get the latest news and info from DBIA. And again, thank you to USCAD for their support of Design Build Delivers throughout this entire year. Find out more at uscad.com/DBIA.